Hi, everyone. My name is Dua Kindi. Everyone calls me ID. Episode 9, season 4. Season 4 is about team validation. Episode 9 is the third in, our list of 3 things to do when you found a couple of co-founder candidates. So the first of those 3 things is to test, run a test, run some kind of small, time-bound, small test. Don't pick a large project. That's a small project. And test for grit, test for, attitude to work, test for excuses versus ownership, attention to detail, and stuff like that. Number 2, share a co-founder agreement with a vesting clause. We went to town, explaining all the components of the benefits and the components of the co-founder agreement and its vesting clause in the last episode. And now in this episode 9, number 3 in this list of things to do when you find co-founder candidates, we will be talking about having an equity conversation, having a conversation about equity. Now, this is always important to advise founders because this is probably the most difficult conversation for founders to have. And I do appreciate it, right? Cohort after cohort of people that have passed through our incubation program at Boolean Labs and many other founders that I've also met at many of the accelerators that I support in some way. I often see the, will I call it hesitation in their voices when I mention that conversation that you are actually already mentally postponing till sometime in the future, you need to bring it forward and have it as early as possible. That conversation about equity, okay? And I do understand that, many people want to be friendly. Many people want to be cozy, comfortable, have a good camaraderie with their friends, colleagues, future co-founders, future business owners, but I say, bring that conversation forward, bring that difficult conversation forward, bring that difficult conversation about what to do with equity, how much equity are you thinking as the lead founder to give me as a potential co-founder? Let's have that conversation earlier rather than later. And from the perspective of the co-founder, of the lead founder, how much equity do you agree is reasonable for your commitment and contribution, right? So from my perspective as a lead founder, how much equity should I be offering you? Which obviously will be a demonstration of my appraisal of what you are bringing to the table, right? And we'll talk about that. So in a nutshell, that's what this video is about, having that conversation around equity, having that equity conversation. So without much further ado, let's look at the material. So one of the benefits of the vesting clause that we discussed earlier, a component of the co-founder agreement, is the culture of, like I said, accountability, where everyone earns their shares, okay? Having this conversation with your co-founders, the equity conversation with your co-founders, as early as you can, also adds to that culture building process where people generally know that, look, around here we can be friends, we can play together, but when it's time to work, we work hard, we work smart, we work to get the job done. People just get the job done, just get the job done, regardless of the friendship, right? So That's the kind of conversation that's the kind of culture that having this equity conversation helps you cultivate or engender early on. Like I said, you want to discuss this as soon as possible. The earlier you discuss it, the better. It generally, most people postpone it till much, much later, but I think that it should be held, this meeting or series of meetings, this conversation should be held as early as possible. Also, imagine that you're having this conversation with your founders, okay, with your co-founders as a lead founder. There's no way you are going to discuss, you can't go far in this conversation without getting to the point about valuation, without at some point saying, okay, this is how much we're valuing this business, okay? And so, we're also going to discuss valuation. I actually do have an Excel template that I share with founders, whenever we have this conversation, that you can also leverage. I'll share the link in the next video, and you can start to use that template to have this conversation. So how does this conversation typically go? You want to, a couple of pointers. Number one, I always say that commitment is never equal in a startup. I understand the thinking behind the decision to split equity right down the middle, 50-50. I understand it. But I don't think, but I think that it sets up the situation, it sets up certain situations that might occur later on in your journey where you will be hard pressed because someone needs to take the lead and make a decision. This is my point. 50-50 hardly ever works because someone needs to take a decision and get the ball rolling. And it's going to happen sooner rather. If it doesn't happen sooner, it will happen later. Sooner or later, there will be the situation where someone needs to take a decision, right? You will vote and it will be a tie. Someone needs to take a decision. So I always say, even if it's by 1%, let there be a 1%, let there be a majority, right? Majority equity. Let one person be the lead founder. Usually that person is the original ideator. Let that person have that benefit of extra equity, right? Even if it's just 1%, because they are the original ideator that invited other people. I get the thinking behind it, and this is my recommendation. So, riding on that, everyone should then be able to have a healthy contribution to this conversation around, okay, I hear you, but I think that, so this is me talking as a co-founder, right? I hear you, lead founder, and I hear that you've described pretty much a summary, not in detail, but a summary of everything that you've committed to date to getting this business to the point where I am now trying to join you. But consider what I am also bringing. This is what I'm bringing, XYZ. I'm bringing X $1,000 worth of social capital, X $1,000 worth of intellectual capital, and X $1,000 worth of cash, right? I think that these things put together should be about 10% or 25% or 70% of what you have contributed so far. And so that is a healthy conversation for co-founders to have. I've been in situations where I've been told, hey, I'm taking 50% of your company, take it or leave it, right? We'll talk about that later. I get it, right? You know, I've even been told I'm taking 70% of your company, take it or leave it, right? And I get it. But you see, when you have these conversations, this conversation helps you navigate such dog eats dog type conversations, right? This way of thinking about equity distribution, where when somebody offers you, look, I'm the bigger party, I'm the bigger dog in this fight, in this conversation, and I'm going to call the shots. I'm bringing XYZ and I'm taking 70% of your company. You need a way to redirect that conversation away from the bigger dog in this conversation to, dear sir, can we have a conversation around what you're bringing to the table and how we can value what you're bringing to the table relative to what has been brought to the table so far, whether by I alone or my team of other co-founders, right? So that kind of conversation is what you want to have in this session. Like I said, there is an Excel template that I will share in the next video, but just on the summary level, the equity conversation is very, very important to have. It's absolutely important, absolutely critical. It helps everyone land on the same page of thinking around equity conversation. I always tell founders that the further you push this conversation into the future, the higher the risk that the conversation will not go well. So you're actually helping yourself when you push this conversation earlier on in time, you know. So without much further ado, thank you for tolerating my hallucinations. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.